The reincarnated village elder shall ruin the goddess's salvation plan. Chapter 1. The elder who flipped the bird to God. The void was a special kind of hell, not the fire and brimstone kind, but the endless, echoey, soul-crushing nothingness. Luther, or what was left of him, spat into it, a pathetic, wispy cough that dissolved before it could even properly form. "Fucking goddess," he wheezed, the sound a dry rustle of dead leaves. "You and your grand design, bunch of divine bullshit." He remembered the betrayal, the smug celestial grin, the sudden sickening lurch as his meticulously constructed life imploded. Reincarnation, a gift they called it, a chance to start anew. Bullshit. It was a cosmic joke, a particularly cruel twist of the knife, and the worst part? He retained his memories, all of them, every petty grievance, every failed business venture, every time he'd been shafted by a higher power, except this time there was a loophole, a glitch in the divine matrix. When he'd materialized back into existence, not as a newborn babe, but as a somewhat doddering old man in a village he vaguely recalled from a particularly tedious dream, he'd found it, an interface, shimmering in his vision, a testament to the incompetence of the celestial programmers. It was the elder's system, and it granted him administrative privileges. Village elder. Right. Village elder, he muttered, the words scratching at his throat. More like cosmic punchbag. The world coalesced around him, a quaint, anachronistic sprawl of wood and thatch, oak art, figures, the kind of place that probably had a pick-me-up quota for deities. He'd already used his newfound powers, of course, not to improve the village or foster harmonious relations or any of that saccharine nonsense. No, he'd used it to screw with the system. A young man radiating an aura of ill-deserved confidence and clad in ridiculously shiny armor appeared before him. The hero, of course. Every reincarnated fool needed a hero to flock to them like moths to a flickering, greasy candle. Venerable elder, the hero boomed, bowing with an exaggerated flourish. "I am here to accept your quest, the artifact, the map. It is vital for my journey to defeat the demon lord." Luther snorted, a sound like a bag of gravel being dropped. "Map? What map?" The hero blinked, his perfectly sculpted brow furrowing. "But the prophecy spoke of a map, to guide me." "Prophecy?" Luther scoffed, leaning on his ordinary wooden cane. He tapped it against the cobblestones, the dull thud echoing his own weariness. "That's a nice story. Tell you what, hero. You want to save the world? Fine by me. But you're not getting a map. What I can offer you is a challenge." He let his gaze drift to the hero's back, specifically to the pristine, unblemished plate armor. "See that? Looks awfully itchy. I'll bet you can't reach that one spot, right between the shoulder blades. How about this, hero? You scratch my back, and maybe, just maybe, I'll consider your needs." The hero stared, his jaw slack. This wasn't in the script. The grateful populace, the wise elder offering sage advice, the shining beacon of hope. This was demeaning. Luther cackled, a dry, rasping sound. "Well, going to stand there gaping like a fish, or are you going to prove your worth? The fate of the world, and all that?" He flicked his wrist, a barely perceptible gesture. The elder's system interface flickered, confirming the transaction. Asterisk, quest accepted, hero's back scratch. Asterisk. He flipped the bird to the indifferent sky. This was going to be fun. Chapter 2. The sacred duty of floor licking. "Right, you monumental waste of oxygen," Luther wheezed, leaning on his cane, each breath a grating rasp. He squinted at the imbecile standing before him, the so-called hero, radiating an aura of self-importance so thick it could choke a lesser man. "Your next mission, and try not to screw it up this time, you utter buffoon." The hero puffed out his chest. "Fear not, elder. Whatever divine trial you set before me, I shall conquer it. My destiny is to vanquish evil and— Shut it, pal, Luther interrupted, waving a dismissive hand. You want to be a hero? Fine. Here's your glorious quest. I've detected a potent evil energy emanating from the vicinity of the village latrine. He paused, letting the glorious implication sink in. A most unholy stench, almost demonic, I'd wager. It's polluting the very essence of Oakheart. The hero's eyes widened, not with revulsion, but with righteous fervor. The latrine, of course, a foul place, a breeding ground for filth. This must be a test of my purity, my dedication to cleansing the world. Luther nearly choked on a laugh, a dry, hacking sound. Precisely. So your task is to cleanse it thoroughly. I want you to lick the floor, every last inch, absorb its impurities, understand its essence, become one with the filth, so that you may truly know thy enemy. He punctuated this with a vigorous, if shaky, flip of his middle finger towards the heavens. The hero's jaw dropped. Lick the floor? Yes, Luther confirmed, his voice dripping with mock sincerity. It's a highly advanced technique, builds extreme tongue sensitivity, crucial for detecting subtle toxins. And who knows, he added, a glint in his weary eyes, you might even develop a discerning palate for demon droppings. Imagine the tactical advantage. The hero, however, was already caught in the divine current. Extreme tongue sensitivity, toxin detection. Of course, the saintess foresaw this. She spoke of the need to embrace the humble, to find divinity in the mundane. This is it. This is the path. He struck a dramatic pose, his sword held aloft. I shall purify the unholy shrine of the latrine with the sacred act of the floor lick. The demon lord's foul essence shall be neutralized by my indomitable spirit and my exceptionally clean tongue. Luther just stared, a slow, cynical grin spreading across his face. Oh, this was rich. This was exquisite. He watched as the hero practically skipped away, muttering about divine blessings and the unparalleled sensitivity of his taste buds. He could practically hear the hero's brain cells short-circuiting with misplaced piety. Good, Luther wheezed, leaning back against his cane. Let him taste the dregs. Maybe he'll learn something. Or maybe he'll just get dysentery. Either way, it's a win for me. He closed his eyes, the faint, sweet scent of pure, unadulterated idiocy filling the air. Chapter 3. A pillow made of divine fear. Luther coughed, a wet, rattling sound that scraped against the quiet morning. He leaned on his cane, the worn wood familiar against his palm. Right, he rasped, the word barely audible over his wheezing. Next thing, he squinted at the flickering elder's system interface, the ethereal glow doing nothing to lift the grime from his soul. It says, gather the molting feathers of the demonic fowl. Liriana, who'd been meticulously polishing Luther's cane with her tunic, paused, her eyes, wide and unnervingly bright, fixed on him. Demonic fowl, she whispered reverently. The Great Spirit speaks of trials to purify the flock. A sacred task, master. Luther snorted, a puff of air escaping his lips. Sacred task, he muttered, more like a goddamn scavenger hunt for bird shit. Those things are nasty, Liriana, mean as hell, and twice as greasy. He gestured vaguely towards the edge of Oakheart, where a perpetually agitated squawking could usually be heard. They roost out by the old creek bed. You'll know 'em when you see 'em. They're demonic. Liriana, however, was already nodding with fervent conviction. The demonic fowl, she repeated, her voice a hushed chant. Their molted plumage, a divine offering. I shall cleanse them, master. I shall pluck their feathers and present them as a pillow for the benevolent spirits. A pillow, Luther wheezed, a flicker of something akin to amusement in his dull eyes. He pictured Liriana wrestling with a flock of razor-beaked, foul-tempered birds, her pure heart convinced she was collecting halo material. It was almost enough to make him forget the gnawing emptiness. Yeah, a pillow, just try not to get pecked to death. Or, laid an egg on. They do that too. Liriana didn't seem to register the sarcasm. Fear not, master. For the Great Spirit's guidance, I shall be protected. She bowed deeply. Then, with a determined stride that belied her usual ethereal grace, she marched off towards the creek. Luther watched her go, a grimace twisting his lips. He flipped the bird to the indifferent sky. Protected, he wheezed, the word swallowed by another cough. She'll learn. Hours later, Liriana returned, not with feathers, but with a triumphant, if slightly battered grin. She clutched a single iridescent feather. It pulsed with a faint, sickly green light. "Master," she exclaimed, presenting the feather, "I have encountered a challenge. The demonic fowl are most aggressive. They attacked with such ferocity, their claws like daggers, their beaks like lightning." Luther eyed the feather. It looked exactly like the mangy, unpleasant down he'd seen clinging to the demonic fowl. "And you got one feather, but it is no ordinary feather, master," Liriana insisted, her voice trembling with excitement. As the creatures descended, I felt a surge of divine power. The Great Spirit, he granted me a boon, absolute evasion. She demonstrated, a blur of motion as she dodged an imaginary peck with impossible grace. "No attack can touch me, master. I am untouchable." Luther stared. Absolute evasion. Of course, the system would make sure its chosen one, however idiotic, was inconveniently resilient. He wheezed out a laugh. "So, you can dodge a chicken. Big damn deal." "It is more than dodging, master," Liriana insisted, her eyes shining. "It is the ultimate defense. The demonic fowl could not lay a single claw upon me. I simply was not there when they struck." "Right," Luther said, pushing himself straighter. "So, you can dodge. Great. Now, about those feathers. The system wants a pillow, a whole damn pillow, not one bird's dandruff." Liriana's brow furrowed. "But I have the anti-magic feather, master, the most potent of them all. This must be the true quest, to retrieve this artifact." Luther blinked. Anti-magic feather? He glanced at the interface. It now displayed an entry, and beneath it, a rather paltry count of 0/100ths. "The system's being tricky," he wheezed. "It wants 100 of those for the pillow, and this one counts as one, apparently." Liriana gasped, her face lighting up. 100 offerings to the benevolent spirits. The Great Spirit truly tests my devotion. "Fear not, master. With my absolute evasion, I shall return with a bounty." And with another fervent nod, she spun on her heel, and with a speed that would make a startled rabbit jealous, sprinted back towards the squawking terror that was the demonic fowl roost. Luther watched her go, shaking his head. "Absolute evasion," he muttered to his cane. "More like absolute idiocy. She's going to end up as demonic fowl stuffing." He sighed, the sound a ragged exhalation. The sky remained stubbornly blue. Chapter 4. Telling Jokes to a Dead Tree. "So," Luther wheezed, the sound like a deflating bellows, "the old guy wants me to tell a tree a joke?" He flicked his wrist, the motion surprisingly sharp for his decrepit state. A asterisk tree asterisk. He aimed a middle finger at the indifferent sky. Of course he does. What else would a god-king with too much time on his hands do but demand arboreal amusement? Liriana, ever the picture of beatific devotion, clasped her hands. "Master Luther, you speak in riddles, but your wisdom is as deep as the roots of the world tree. The great elder surely wishes for you to spread joy and laughter, even to the silent, stoic beings of nature. It is a testament to your boundless compassion." Luther snorted, a sound that rattled in his chest. "Boundless compassion? Kid, the only thing boundless about me is my desire for a quiet nap, and stoic beings don't laugh. They rot, or get chopped down, or, in this particular case, apparently demand punchlines." He gestured with his cane towards a gnarled ancient oak that dominated the village square. Its branches, thick as a man's torso, clawed at the sky, and its trunk was so wide it would take 3 men to circle it. "This is the ancient tree of merriment, is it? Looks more like the ancient tree of my balls itch." Liriana's eyes widened with reverence. "Indeed, master." The elder's system interface highlighted its significance. "It has been said that only a truly pure heart, filled with unadulterated mirth, can coax a smile from its ancient bark. You, master, are that pure heart, pure heart." "I'm pure exhaustion and pure annoyance," Luther grumbled, leaning heavily on his cane. "Fine, whatever. You want the elder's approval. You get the elder's approval. Who's going first?" Liriana beamed. "I shall, for the glory of the elder." She approached the tree, her movements graceful and serene. Taking a deep breath, she began, her voice clear and melodious. "Why did the scarecrow win an award?" Luther rolled his eyes. Asterisk, here we go. Asterisk. "Because he was outstanding in his field." Liriana finished with a flourish. She then waited, a hopeful smile plastered on her face, her gaze fixed on the ancient oak. The tree remained resolutely, profoundly silent. Not a leaf rustled, not a creak betrayed any sign of amusement. Luther let out another wheezing chuckle. "Outstanding in his field, all right. Standing there like a lump of wood, much like yourself, kid." Liriana's smile faltered slightly, but she quickly rallied. "Perhaps the elder requires a joke of greater profundity. I shall try again." She cleared her throat. "What do you call a lazy kangaroo?" Luther leaned closer, a flicker of morbid curiosity in his usually dull eyes. "Couch potato," Liriana announced, her voice laced with anticipation. Again silence. The oak stood, as impassive as a statue carved from granite. Liriana's shoulders sagged, just a fraction. Luther, however, felt a grim satisfaction. "See, trees don't laugh. They just are. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go find a less talkative shrub to interrogate about those damn feathers." "No, master," Liriana cried, rushing back to him. The elder's system interface clearly indicated that you are the one destined to succeed. It is a trial of your spirit. Luther stared at the tree, then at Liriana's earnest, slightly desperate face. He sighed, a long drawn-out exhalation that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. "Fine, you want a joke from the pure heart? You got it, but don't blame me if this thing starts weeping sap." He hobbled forward, positioning himself directly in front of the massive trunk. He closed his eyes, a strange expression on his face, not of humor, but of deep existential despair. He took a shaky breath. "So," he began, his voice raspy, "there's this guy, right? And he's at the end of his rope. He's lost his job, his wife left him, his dog died, and he's got a mountain of debt. He walks into a bar, orders a drink, and the bartender asks him, 'What's wrong?'" Luther paused, the silence stretching. Liriana held her breath. Even the ambient bird song seemed to have quieted. "And the guy says," Luther continued, his voice dropping to a barely audible rasp, "everything, absolutely everything is wrong." He opened his eyes and looked at the tree. "Nothing." Then Liriana whispered, "And what did the bartender say, master?" Luther's eye twitched. "The bartender?" The bartender looked at him, all sympathetic-like, and said, "Sounds like you need a *tree teement." He flipped the bird at the sky. "Get it? Tree-ament, like treatment, because it's a tree? Oh, for Christ's sake." And then something happened. A low rumbling sound, like stones grinding against each other, emanated from the oak. The ground vibrated. Leaves impossibly old and dry detached themselves and spiraled down. The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen pressure. From the very heart of the gnarled wood, a single emerald green leaf unfurled, glowing with an inner light. It pulsed, and with each pulse the oak seemed to shift *. The bark rippled, coalescing into what looked unnervingly like a stern, disapproving face. The rumbling intensified, growing into a low groan that echoed through the village. The tree began to grow its branches stretching, its trunk thickening, the wood darkening to an almost obsidian hue. The air crackled with a palpable anti-magic field, pushing back against Liriana's inherent holy aura. Liriana stumbled back, her face pale, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and awe. "Master, you've done it. But it's not laughter, it's anger. Luther stared, his wheezing breaths becoming ragged gasps. The tree was no longer just a tree. It was a sentient, colossal entity, radiating a palpable wave of magical suppression. It looked like it wanted to smite him, Liriana, and the entire village for his abysmal joke. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," Luther wheezed, raising his cane defensively. "I tell a pun, and I summon a pissed-off tree god. This is just great asterisk." The Elder's system interface flickered into existence before Luther's eyes. Luther groaned. "Forbidden magic ancient tree. Of course, why wouldn't it be?" Chapter 5. Plumbing the Abyss. Luther coughed, a ragged, wheezing sound that scraped his throat raw. All right, you oversized broccoli. You want me to... What was it again?" He squinted at the flickering text on his Elder's system interface, the ethereal glow doing nothing to soothe his perpetually irritated soul. "Make the hero dig a latrine with his bare hands?" He snorted, a sound like a dying walrus. "For the love of... What kind of cosmic joke is this?" Liriana, however, was practically vibrating with devotional ecstasy. "Oh, blessed oracle," she breathed, her eyes shining with the fervent light of 1,000 suns, her voice a melodious chime that grated on Luther's nerves. Such profound wisdom to humble the so-called hero through the most basic of necessities. Truly, this is a test of his spirit, a purification of his essence. Luther flipped the bird to the sky, a gesture so ingrained it was practically involuntary. Purification? The kid's gonna get trench foot and a crippling fear of dirt. I'm the one who has to watch it. Joy. He shoved the interface back into his grimy tunic. "Fine. Where's this paragon of virtue, this hero who's about to engage in manual excavation of his own waste?" Liriana pointed a delicate, impossibly clean finger towards a cluster of hovels clinging to the hillside. "He is there, sire, practicing his cleansing rituals." "Cleansing rituals," Luther muttered, the phrase tasting like ash. "Right. Lead the way, Saint Whatchamacallit, and try not to bless the mud puddles on the way. I've had enough divine intervention for one lifetime." They found the hero, a gangly youth named Kale, looking less like a legendary figure and more like a bewildered farmhand who'd accidentally wandered onto a stage. He was staring, utterly baffled, at a crudely drawn diagram in the dirt. "So," Luther began, his voice laced with weary sarcasm, "the all-powerful oracle has decreed that your destiny lies not in slaying dragons, but in digging a hole for your excrement." He paused, waiting for the kid to break down, to plead, to question the absurdity. Kale just blinked. "The oracle wants me to dig a latrine with my hands?" "Precisely," Liriana chimed in, her face a mask of beatific understanding. "A sacred act, hero, to embrace the earth, to return what is owed, to truly understand the cycle of life and waste." Luther pinched the bridge of his nose. "Right, get to it, sport. The sooner you get your hands dirty, the sooner I can go back to complaining about my knees." Kale surprisingly didn't argue. He looked at his perfectly clean hands, then at the muddy ground, and sighed. "Okay, if the oracle wills it." He knelt tentatively at first and began to scrape away at the damp earth with his fingernails. The soil was thick with clay, stubbornly clinging to his skin. Minutes turned into an hour. The initial tentative scraping became more desperate, more frantic, as the hole remained stubbornly shallow and his hands began to ache. Luther watched, his expression a symphony of bored cynicism, occasionally punctuated by a wheeze. "Come on, kid," he drawled. "Dig faster. The gods are waiting for your contribution." Cale's grunts of effort became strained. His fingers were starting to bleed, small trickles of red marring the brown earth. He dug with a frantic intensity now, a primal urge to complete the task overriding the pain. He was no longer digging a latrine. He was digging for something. He hammered his bleeding knuckles into the ground, desperation fueling his actions. Suddenly, with a choked cry, Cale's hand plunged through the mud. He yelped, scrambling back, clutching his wrist. It broke. Luther shuffled closer, a flicker of mild curiosity in his weary eyes. "Broke the hole, or your damn hand?" "My hand, it went asterisk through asterisk," Cale stammered, showing Luther the raw, bleeding mess where his fingers had been. But it wasn't just the broken bones that had Cale so rattled. Where his hand had disappeared, the ground had collapsed, revealing a dark, unnervingly smooth surface beneath. It looked like obsidian, etched with lines that pulsed with a faint, sickly green light. Liriana gasped, falling to her knees. "It is the work of the Ancient Ones. The hero has unearthed a sacred boundary." Luther squinted, his cynicism momentarily overridden by a morbid fascination. The lines weren't just etched, they were intricate, forming a complex geometric pattern. It looked ancient, powerful, and entirely out of place in this god's-forsaken village. "Physical seal, huh?" he grunted, tapping his cane against the exposed surface. It made a dull thud. So, digging a poop hole accidentally broke a magic fence. "Figures," he coughed again, a rattling reminder of his own mortality. "Guess the Oracle's jokes just keep getting better." That's the end of today's story, but the journey has just begun. I'm X9 Text Lord. If you loved this epic adventure, please subscribe, hit the like button, and share. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter.